Alrighty, everyone, welcome back to another episode of In Depth with David. This is Red Sox Series Recap, episode number 10. Today, we are going to be recapping the Red Sox series that just ended today. They just finished up a three-game tilt against the Detroit Tigers. And once again, I'm joined by my friend and also the co-host here, Ricky. Ricky, how are you doing?
All right. A lot to talk about in this one. It's going to be a pretty interesting episode. So I got a lot of notes down, a whole sheet here. I'm sure you have a lot to note. It's been a busy week with finals week, and then this series didn't make it any easier. So shout out the Red Sox.
Yeah, gotta love the Red Sox. They're Boston sports teams in general. They always seem to give us a heart attack. But this series was nothing different. But just so we don't bury the lead, I know it's becoming the meme or whatever. What are your general takeaways from this series without going into details?
So I just put, without revealing much, this is just on the way it was played, obviously. Rough defense, pretty solid offense, and shaky pitching. Kind of meh pitching. So we'll definitely touch on those three aspects, I'm sure, because the defensive end of things and pitching end of things definitely need to be discussed. So
I agree with that. I mean, it's just overall so ugly, very hard to watch, especially today's game. Just a roller coaster ride of a three-game series against a team that was 8-21 coming into this series. But
right.
Without going into further details, I mean, I'm not necessarily thrilled with how it went. I'm sure you can say the same, but it was a fun series of baseball. I mean, fun but ugly. Nonetheless, we'll get into it. So game one, the pitching matchup was Nick Pivetta versus Michael Fulmer for the Detroit Tigers. Fulmer was one of the prospects who the Tigers acquired when they traded Price to the Toronto Blue Jays all those years back, about like 5 or 6 years ago. So he's finally made an impact at the big league level. But jumping into the game, Xander Bogaerts makes a nice diving play to end the first inning. And then it was the Red Sox turn to make some noise in the bottom of the first as Michael Fulmer ran into trouble. He tried to nab Kike Hernandez at second on a grounder, but he threw it into the outfield, so Kike was able to move up to third. And then JD hit into a fielder's choice to score Kike Hernandez, making it 1-0. And then Vasquez had an RBI single to score JD, making it 2-0. Marwin hit a single to score Xander Bogaerts, make it 3-0. And then Hunter Renfroe had a broken bat single to score Christian Vasquez, which made it 4-0 Red Sox. And this all happened in the first inning.
Right.
And then Michael Fulmer gets pulled after only getting through 2/3 of an inning. So this has not been the first time this year where the Red Sox have gone into a pitcher early, and we've seen him lead the game very early. But I think this is the earliest this year that the Sox have forced a pitcher out of game 2/3 into it. So Are you surprised that they pulled him this early?
Not
because really. He was struggling. It's just, I don't know. It seems a little weird to me. Like, I would not feel good about myself. Like, he already gave up 4 runs in the first inning, but I would not feel good about myself if my manager didn't trust me enough that he took me out with 2/3, only with getting 2 outs.
Yeah, I think you could have let him just ride out the inning and maybe put him in the next inning and see how it would have went. But at the same time, like, the Tigers are kind of a team that are in a stage right now where they're kind of trying to rebuild, and they've got a pretty old team too. Looking at a lot of the guys in that roster, some of those guys I didn't even think played anymore, like Cabrera. Like,
I was just gonna say,
we were like kids. The man's like almost 40, and he's not the same player obviously he was. And they've got their catcher. Why do I forget his name?
Wilson Ramos.
Yeah, Wilson Ramos. He's still pretty decent, but again, he's an older guy. He's been around a while. So this team kind of, I'm not surprised that they pulled the pitcher. They pulled him so early just because it's the team. And I think the Tigers kind of realize, like, yeah, the Red Sox are going to really beat up on us, so we might as well just go to the pen. So, but yeah, I do think it's a little bit, it would definitely be a little bit frustrating for the pitcher coming from the angle of, oh, my manager doesn't trust me, though. I definitely get that. I think 2/3 of an inning, just, I don't know. They could have at least let him ride out the first. So,
yeah, I mean, Miguel Cabrera, though, going back to that, I kind of forgot he still played, because back in 2013 and 2015, even before that, like at the beginning of this, the last decade, he was one of the better hitters in baseball. Some people are saying he could have been the best player in baseball. I mean, you go back to him, Poppy, Joey Votto, like they were some of the best pure hitters in baseball. And just seeing Miggy struggle, it was kind of hard to watch this series. He got the day off today, but he went 0 for 4 in game 1, 0 for 3 in game 2. Spoiler alert to everyone watching. Sorry for burying the lead, but
Yeah.
he's just definitely not the same player like you said. But nonetheless, in the second inning, the Tigers were able to get a little bit of momentum off of Pivetta as Victor Reyes, I believe that's his name. Let me just check. Yep, Victor Reyes, the right fielder for the Tigers, hits one past the diving Marwin Gonzalez at second. So Ramos, the catcher we were just talking about, is able to score. That makes it 4-1 Red Sox. And then the very next batter is Grossman for the Tigers, and he hits one in the hole between third and short. I believe the Red Sox had a shift on in this play, but nonetheless, Castro was able to score, making it 4-2. And then later in the second inning, in the bottom of the second inning, Alex Verdugo continues his hot start to the season, and he sends one in the monster seats to make it 5-2. So just the theme continues this year, 5 weeks into the season, where Red Sox pitchers or players are hitting it into the opposite field for power. I mean, it's just really impressive to see. So nonetheless, Doogie gets another home run this season. And then the big news is they have a new shopping cart. I don't know if you knew that, Ricky, but Kevin Plawecki ordered a new shopping cart for them to do this celebration in. So, you know, they're upgrading around here in Boston. The penny pinching Red Sox are able to, upgrade their shopping carts for celebrations. But nonetheless, after that, Xander Bogaerts hits a 2-run shot 2 batters later, also into the monster seats to make it 7-2 Red Sox. And in the bottom of the third, Renfroe scores on a wild pitch from Norris, the pitcher for the Tigers, to make it 8-2. So at this point, it's looking like a blowout. And then just to touch on Nick Pivetta for a second, he pitches 5 innings of work, got over the 100 pitch mark. How do you think he pitched in this game?
I think Pivetta was solid. Not an incredible start, but I'm really liking what I'm seeing from Pivetta. We've talked pretty positively about him, but this record improved him to 4-0 on the season. This win, and his stats were 5 innings, 6 hits, 3 runs, and 8 Ks. So that's not bad. I mean, 8 strikeouts and only 3 runs allowed. Like, that's pretty good. Like you said, the game was looking pretty positively until Pivetta came out, and we'll talk about that without ruining the fun of the later part of the game. But yeah, I think Pivetta has actually been a really solid ad potentially. It's looking like this might actually pan out in the Sox favor, which is what you want to see. So yeah.
I've liked him since we got him last year at the deadline, I think, for Workman. I know a lot of people didn't want us to get rid of him, but we were able to turn Workman into Pivetta, and he's probably been our most consistent pitcher this year, I'd argue. Obviously, Evaldi has had his ups and downs. Garrett Richards, I don't need to say anything else about him. Garrett Whitlock has kind of been scuffling a bit lately, but I think Pavetta's done a good job, and if he can give up 3 runs every night, I'm fine with that because our offense is good enough if we're able to score more than that, or right. I feel like we can score more than that. So another quality start for him. And then in the bottom of the 5th inning, Hunter Renfroe ends up hitting his 100th career homer into the monster seats to make it 9-3 Red Sox. And there was a little drama here as he hit it in the monster, but then the ball fell back onto the field. So then the outfielder took it and he just threw it into the foul territory out in left field, those seats. And Hunter's like, yo, like, I need this ball. Like, it's my money ball. It's my 100th homer. I want this ball back. So 2 security people ended up going to the fans who caught the ball. And they said, we'll give you some merchandise or whatever if you just give this ball to Hunter Renfroe. And did you hear what the fan got in exchange for giving Renfroe his 100th homer ball?
Yeah, didn't they get a signed baseball from Garrett Richards and I think Erod too?
2 people who are not even in the dugout at this point, they got a signed ball from, and because everyone wants a ball signed by Garrett Richards, right? I mean, because they were actually going to go meet Hunter Renfroe. That's usually what happens when you catch a money ball, but there's something going on with the lighting.
It's crazy right now. Hold on.
Yeah, you're good.
There we go.
So, what would you do? So, what was I going to say? Yeah, so the whole Hunter Renfroe Moneyball thing, or Moneyball. They were gonna go see. They're actually going to be able to meet Hunter Renfroe, but because of COVID, you can't go into the clubhouse anymore and meet people. So they had to settle for getting a signed ball by just two of the most random players ever.
Yeah.
What would you have negotiated for in that situation? Because I feel like I would have, asked for a lot more. Like, I just caught your 100th homer. Give me season tickets or something like that.
Yeah, I would have definitely pushed for something a little more than that. Maybe like club, like maybe like box seats or something, like
Yeah.
seats, something like that, like a
Perez bobblehead, maybe.
yeah, free Perez bobblehead, like monster seats, just something. Just I don't know why they settled for the Garrett Richards ball. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's a signed ball, but it's like the worst pitcher on the.
Do you think they had a choice? Because I'm starting to think maybe they just told him, like, we'll give you a signed ball from two players. And he's like, oh my God, I'm going to get a signed ball from Xander Bogaerts and Verdugo. And he's like, oh, it's Erod and Garrett Richards. So I don't think, maybe he didn't have a choice.
Yeah, I feel like that's probably the case. The Red Sox were probably very insistent, and they were like, all right, we can't argue with the Red Sox. We'll just be submissive and give them the ball.
Right. So that was just a little drama. I thought that was funny, though. And then the sixth inning for the Red Sox, Austin Bryce comes in for relieving Nick Pivetta. And then with 2 on, Jacoby Jones of the Detroit Tigers, not of the Baltimore Ravens. I don't know if you noticed that, but Jacoby Jones used to be a wide receiver on the Ravens way back in the day. So I thought that was funny. Same name. And he ends up sending one into the monster seats again. So every homer tonight gets sent into the green monster so far, and this is a 3-run homer, so it makes it a bit more interesting. So it goes from being a 9-3 game to a 9-6 game. And then later in the inning, Matt Andrees comes in to relieve Austin Bryce. And do you want to take it from here? How did Matt Andrees do? One of our favorite guys on this body.
Matt Andrees just continued right where Bryce left off in classic 2020 Red Sox style, giving up runs from terrible teams.
Yeah, so Andrees comes in, Grossman singles to right to bring in Victor Reyes, so that makes it 9-7, and then things are getting a little interesting. So it went from a 6-run game to a 2-run game, just like that, and then in the bottom of the 6th, the Red Sox were able to get a little bit more breathing room as JD Martinez scores all the way from first after Christian Vasquez doubles down the left field line. That makes it 10-7. Then in the 8th inning, Kike hits a homer into the monster seats to seal the game, making it 11-7 Red Sox, as Barnes would end up closing it out in the 9th, as he usually does. So the Red Sox end up taking game 1 of the series. Just some note about Kike. I mean, out of all the newcomers on the team, I feel like he's been one of the more impressive ones. He has 4 home runs up until this point. He's played good defense. He's kind of like a Swiss Army knife out there. I don't know how you feel, but I feel like he's been one of our more impressive acquisitions.
Yeah, I think he's a good JBJ replacement too, being an outfielder. And yeah, I like Kike a lot, actually. I'm glad he kind of started off rough batting-wise. He had a pretty cool start, but I think he's been pretty consistent. Nothing like mind-blowingly spectacular, but I like him where he is too at leadoff. I kind of like him there, honestly.
Yeah, at first, I think we talked about this too, where at first we weren't the biggest fans of having him lead off. We'd rather have someone like Bogaerts or Verdugo do it. But I'm a fan of it. And the fact that he can play a ton of positions too really helps out when people need off days, because obviously we've been having him primarily play center, but he can play second base. He can play shortstop. So I hope he's here to stay for a little bit. Obviously, he's on a 2-year contract, and he's a fun clubhouse guy too. So hopefully he sticks around for a bit. But now we're going to head into game 2. So game 2, the pitching matchup for the Red Sox versus the Tigers was Martin Perez versus Mize. What was his first name? Casey Mize. Yeah, so Kike, we'll start off this game. Kike had a nice sliding catch in the second, or to end the side in the second inning. Just talking about him again for a quick second. He's played great defense. Can't complain about that in the outfield. So that was the early highlight. And then in the bottom of the second inning, Christian Arroyo grounds out to score Xander Bogaerts from third to make it 1-0 Red Sox. And then in the top of the 4th, the Tigers end up responding back as Jacoby Jones, once again for the second straight night, drives in a run as he scores Candelario with a single, and Franchi Cordero in left field had a little trouble handling the hit. So, the defensive woes from him continue, and Jacoby Jones is able to move up to second on the play. But that was really it for a bit. And what do you think of how Mize pitched in this game against the Red Sox? Because I thought he did a pretty solid job.
Yeah, definitely. I was kind of surprised. I hadn't previously heard of him. I didn't know if he was like Detroit's ace or whatever, but he pitched really well. Yeah, I got to give it up to him. He really burned the Red Sox, which was frustrating to see because I hate how it's kind of been a bit of a trend where the Red Sox have let these like subpar middle of the rotation pitchers really beat up on them. So
Michael Kopech.
Yeah.
Former Red Sox prospects.
Right. Guys like Kopech or some of the deeper guys they faced when they played the Mariners.
Pineda.
Yeah, Pineda, guys like that. Like it's not the best to see, but shout out to Mize. I mean, it was a really solid game. So
yeah, so he really stymied the Sox. 6 innings, 3 hits, 1 earned run, 4 walks, 3 strikeouts. And then we head to the top of the 6th, and this is where things kind of unravel for the Red Sox and Martin Perez, where there's runners on second and third, and Jacoby Jones once again adds 2 more RBIs to his tally as he hits one off of the monster to make it 3-1 Detroit. So talk about Martin Perez for a second. How do you think he pitched today? Because, we've kind of leveled our expectations for him, both of us this season, where we understand he's just a number 5 guy, and most of the time he's decent to below average. Sometimes he pitches better than expected, but, how do you think he pitched this game right here?
Pretty much just typical Perez, as you noted. Yeah, Martin Perez is that 4th, 5th guy, so it's not like we expect like the world from him. But yeah, not the best Perez day, but it could have went, I guess, a little bit worse. So
yeah, he went 5 2/3, gave up 6 hits, 2 earned runs, 2 walks, and 6 strikeouts. So that's a solid stat line out of a number 5 guy. I can live with that, as I've learned to live with Perez all year. And the bottom of the 6th, just jumping ahead a bit, Christian Arroyo gets hit by a pitch on the hand, and this ends up loading the bases. But there's a little bit more of a hidden meaning to this because Christian Arroyo got hit in the hand a couple series ago. And I think he ended up missing some time because of this, because there was some swelling. And right as the swelling stopped in his hand, he gets hit in his hand again. And he's way more sensitive to the hand than any other place to get hit because he had hand surgery in the past. So they were saying, so the x-rays ended up coming back negative in this game. They were able to do that really quickly. He does end up coming out of this game, and you can see him right before he leaves, being very frustrated that out of all the places he gets hit, it's in the hand. But the x-rays are negative, and Jerry Remy said something that I thought was interesting, where this guy is either the luckiest guy or the unluckiest guy. I mean, how would you say Arroyo is? I feel like he's super unlucky with just getting hit in the hand every time.
Oh, I think so too. I mean, I feel bad for Arroyo too because he's been really solid this year. I really like Arroyo. He's one of my favorite players on that roster right now, honestly. So that sucks to see because that's such a sensitive spot,
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy how unlucky he is, where whenever he gets hit, you have to worry like, oh God, was it the hand? But every time he gets hit and it hits his hand, the x-rays are always negative. So he's unlucky, but he's lucky at the same time, which is weird. But nonetheless, the bases are loaded in the 6th for Hunter Renfroe, and he has a chance to get some runs back for the Red Sox, but he ends up grounding out. And then at the top of the 7th, Franchi Cordero ends up redeeming himself as he makes a nice sliding catch to retire the side. And this is significant because there was a runner on second, and he would have scored if Franchi didn't make this play. So just the Franchi Cordero experience continues. Me and you aren't ever really impressed or too disappointed in it, or maybe we are too disappointed in him sometimes, but it's just a nice play from him, and he's still kind of learning the whole ropes of playing at Fenway, and just encouraging to see him make plays like that. And then the bottom of the 7th, JD Martinez answers all the Red Sox hopes and prayers and sends a pitch into the Red Sox bullpen. It's a 2-run homer to tie it. Makes it 3-3. Just what JD's been doing all year. This is his 10th homer, and just can't complain. Can't say enough good things about him.
Yeah.
Right when we need him.
Touch on that too with JD, something that I think is really impressive. And this home run added to that is JD Martinez has already passed his home run, and RBI total from all 60 games last year, and we're only 29 in. So to add on to that JD praise, like that's really good stuff. That's what we want from, all-star level JD Martinez. So great DH play. So
absolutely. Do you think he's been one of the better signings by the Red Sox in the John Henry era? Because we've talked about this before in a prior podcast where so many of the contracts have been awful that the Red Sox have given out. Pablo Sandoval, Daisuke Matsuzaka, Hanley Ramirez,
right.
David Price. But I feel like this is a gem. I mean, he's only making $22 million a year. When he becomes a free agent again, he's going to be making a lot more money. But honestly, JD was a great find. And the fact that no other team besides us wanted him that offseason, it's just mind-blowing to me, considering the numbers he's put up for us. So yeah,
did you?
Yeah, I think we both froze, but I was just going to ask, what do you agree with that sentiment where JD's one of the better free agent signings by the Sox?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, outside of last year, which obviously between the virus and the iPad and a lack of genuine team kind of effort, it was just a bad year. JD's been really good the other 3 seasons he's been here, so yeah, definitely. And I'm really glad his work ethic improved, because I know when I first heard him talk about wanting to get back there and do better, I was a little worried, honestly, that he was just saying that and embellishing to just get a better standing with potential free agency teams and just to make himself look better with people that were criticizing him. But he's really lived up to that expectation thus far, and I just don't really see him slowing down much, considering he went on a little bit of a cool streak and now he's being consistent again, and he's leading the majors in multiple categories. And yeah, I mean, this signing overall has been really beneficial. And he was a huge part of that 2018 team too. And even in 2019, when they were mediocre, he still had a really good year. So,
yeah, he still hit over 300, 36 homers. I mean, in a down year, you can't ask for much more from your DH. But yeah, I'm just really happy with what I've seen from JD this year, because last year he was just, you could tell that his struggling performance was getting to him. Obviously, It was not a good year for anyone in the Red Sox organization last year with on the field and off the field stuff. But this year he's having fun. I remember after the 3rd game in Baltimore, when we went there in early April, he was joking around with reporters after the game because Devers had a moonshot in that game, and he was saying, he's like, yeah, I spoke to Devers, and I'm like, Jesus, did Alex tell you what pitch was coming? Because there's no other way you would have hit it 450 feet. So I thought that was a legendary quote, even though, Alex probably spoke to him about that after the game. But yeah, it's good to see JD joking around about stuff like that and being in better spirits. So he ends up tying the game for us here. It's 3-3. And then the bottom of the 9th, Devers hits a double down the left field line, moves Kike to 3rd. And then the Tigers make the excellent decision of intentionally walking JD, but then they have to go to bogey. See, this is what makes the Red Sox lineup different than other teams, where our heart of the order, our 3, 4, 5, Bogarts, Devers, and Martinez.
Right.
It's one of the best in the league, maybe if not the best in the league. So in this instance, with the game on the line, Bogey has a chance. Xander Bogaerts has a chance to end the game for the Red Sox and send all the fans home happy. And he hits one in the left field, and it looks like it's going to drop. And I'm getting, all the fans think this one's going to drop, and we're going to all be able to go home happy. But the left fielder for the Tigers, Grossman, makes a nice catch to rob Bogaerts, and we end up heading into extra innings. I mean, when you saw that hit, did you think this game was over? Because that's what I thought.
I think so. And at that point, I was just so done with this game, too. I was just ready for Bogaerts to get another home run, continue his hot streak, and just it'd be an ugly win, but a win's a win. So, but of course, things went differently. So,
yeah, I mean, when he hit this one, I thought it was going to drop and, we would have just won. But Grossman, I think he lost it in the light for a second. Then he was able to put a glove on it, and then he fell to the ground. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. Just our luck. But this game ends up heading into extras. And then in the 10th inning, Garrett Whitlock comes in. And last 2 starts, I mean, we're just going to jump right into it. Garrett Whitlock did not do good in this game. Not good at all. These last two games, the one against Texas and the one last night against Detroit, just really kind of concerning to see. I mean, we knew he wouldn't be able to keep up this dominance all season, but are you taking, I'm going to say the quote again, are you taking too much stock in this performance?
I had the exact same note. No joke. Of Garrett Richards struggles continue. 3-run homer given up in the top of the 10th by Jameer Candelario. And then I put, should we take stock? So I don't want to say that we should just yet. It's another one of those, like we've consistently said, because it's 29 games in, not just yet, and because he was really good before that Rangers game, but it is also concerning because the team is arguably the worst. I think they are the worst team in baseball right now, and to give up in a situation where you could really benefit your team and just help wrap things up in extra innings to end the game like that, that's definitely concerning that the last two teams he's faced have not been the most dominant. So I'm not entirely encouraged that when the Red Sox have this stretch coming up with teams like the A's and the Angels and even the Yankees a little further down the line that have really good power hitting, I just don't know how they're going to take advantage of him, seeing as he gave up this, 3-run blast. So I don't know. I'm not going to take too much stock in it yet, but I think if he struggles a few more outings, it's definitely something to be aware of. So,
do you think with the whole new extra innings rule with the runner on second that maybe affects not just him but all pitchers when they're put in that position? Because this is, again, we keep talking about this, but I'm not the biggest fan of this rule because it puts all the pressure on the pitcher and no pressure on the hitter in this situation because there's no outs. There's already a runner on second. One bad pitch and the game's over. Whereas the hitter, they have 3 tries to ruin your outing because there's already a runner on second. So do you think that in a situation when you're a pitcher and you're coming in extra innings that you kind of have to pitch differently or you think differently and that affects your psyche based on the fact that there's already an automatic runner on second?
I think it probably could, honestly. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know to think about that.
Because it's already ruining the integrity of the game having an automatic runner on second. But I've said this in prior podcasts where if you just offset that with shout out Migos, by the way, offset. If you do a runner on second, but start with also 1 out, that equals the pressure where you only have 2 tries on offense to get the runner from second in, and then the runner on second obviously adds an immense amount of pressure to the pitcher still because it's someone in scoring position. So I hope they tinker around with this rule in the offseason because I don't hate it because the goal is obviously to make sure these games don't go on forever, but there's some room for improvement here. So nonetheless, Whitlock, just as Ricky said, did not look good at all in this outing. He ends up giving up a 3-run homer to Candelario to make it 6-3. And then in the bottom of the 10th inning, the Red Sox actually made some noise. I kind of thought for a second they were going to come back and win here, where Marwin Gonzalez hits a single to center, which scores Xander Bogaerts to make it 6-4.
Right.
As Bogaerts was the runner on second because he was the one who made the last out in the prior inning. And then Hunter Renfroe gets an infield hit. I think they ruled it as it went off the shortstop. And nonetheless, that one was able to score Marwin Gonzalez that play. So it makes it 6-5. And now Kike Hernandez has a chance to tie the game. I think there was a runner in scoring position in the situation, but Kike ends up going down looking on strikes to end the game. Just not what you want to see. That's probably the most embarrassing thing as two people who have played baseball before when you end the game just looking at strikes. You want to usually go down swinging, but Michael Fulmer fooled him, and the Tigers end up winning. And yes, Michael Fulmer, the person who just started the prior game, game 1 for the Tigers, ended up coming in and getting the save for Detroit. How about that?
Crazy. That's the way to go. I mean, this upcoming game, we'll have somebody, we're not going to say who yet, but somebody to talk about who continues his classic trend. So I won't ruin it, but get ready for that.
That was so much more of a slap in the face than it needed to be because I was watching that game. I was like, not half awake, but I was just tired watching the game last night.
Man.
And in the bottom of the 10th, I see this guy. I see like the letter F, and I'm like, okay, let's see who this pitcher is for Detroit. And I'm like, didn't he just start yesterday? But it's just you gotta love it. We absolutely that is just why baseball and sports make no sense. We run him out of the ballpark in game 1, and he ends up closing us out in game 2. Like I don't get it. But disappointing loss. I'll go on record and say I fully expected us to sweep Detroit. I said that at the end of last podcast, and I said to Ricky in a text today that these are spring training games. We are facing a spring training level team, and we should have beat this team badly in every game. But nonetheless, Tigers end up taking game 2. Very disappointing to drop a game, but we head into game 3, aka the craziest game of the young season for the Red Sox, craziest and ugliest game. We're going to get into this in a little bit. I mean, this game is going to take a bit to recap, but
yeah.
If you had to describe this game in one word, what word would you use? I'm just going to say ugly.
I'll say long. So I was going to say ugly, but I'll say long because time-wise and, just everything just about it felt long and just, it was just brutal, honestly.
Yep. So 4-hour and 16-minute long game. So that's just a little teaser. I could have worked a whole shift at my job and, been back to watch the end of the game, and it wouldn't have been over. So just a wild game, but the pitching matchup ends up being Nate Eovaldi versus Spencer Turnbull. And also another little milestone is it actually was, I don't know if you knew this, but it was Xander Bogaerts' 1,000th game today.
Yep. Yeah, congratulations to Xander Bogaerts for, staying a Red Sox and, not leaving. Shout out Mookie Betts when he very well could have stayed when he was made.
Oh, come on. Hey, we traded
more Mookie shade, but Xander Bogaerts, congratulations on the 1,000 games for sure. So.
See, the Mookie situation, I guess we'll talk about it for a second. The whole Mookie situation was weird to me, though, because I guess the Red Sox gave him a decent offer of like 12 years, $400 million, but he countered with something else. And then the Red Sox said no, so then they realized we wouldn't be able to retain him, so we got to trade him. But do you hold ill will against Mookie? Or are you just joking?
Not really. I heard, these potentially false rumors that there were other motivations as to why he left, which I think were kind of, what we'd say BS. But I'm not entirely sure if they were true, so I don't want to say it on record.
Right. I mean, we don't want Mookie to come after us and sue us.
Yeah, it's a classic, mean Boston sports fans argument that everybody says. Gordon Hayward said
we didn't need him.
Said it. Anna Horford and Al Horford said it. Brady has said it before. I mean, Chara didn't because he's, a hard-headed guy and respect to him. But a lot of Boston players always talk about that. Yeah, Kyrie. I mean, Mookie, I think, kind of was in a similar boat with that, where it was the fan interactions that I think partially pushed him, because I think Boston is such a tough environment to play in that just some people are just not built for that, honestly. So,
yeah, I mean, I heard from some places that Mookie maybe just didn't even want to stay in the first place and he was looking to leave the whole time. So if that was the case, I can live with the package now. I will never agree with it, trading Mookie Betts, one of the best players, maybe even the best player in the MLB right now. But look, Verdugo's doing good for us. Jeter Downs is probably going to be our future second baseman. And we'll see what Connor Wong can do. Maybe him and Vasquez can be a good 1-2 punch at the catcher position. But
yeah,
getting back to this game, Kike in the first inning leads off with a double. And Alex Verdugo, who sat out game 2 with back spasms, gets back in the lineup, and he ends up grounding out to advance Kike to third. And then things get a little weird because so you didn't watch any of the game today, right?
I had a 3-hour lab, and when my lab was done, I went to the gym and the game was still going on. So as you said, I could have worked a whole shift. This game was so long. I caught a little bit of it when I was in the gym and kind of followed along. In lab, every 20 or so minutes, I would kind of pull up my phone after I was researching stuff, look up the Red Sox, just scroll through tweets, and I could just see from Twitter and then watching highlights and things afterwards. It was just crazy how this game went. So.
Yeah, so the craziness began in the first with Kike. So after he gets gets to third, it was after like a random pitch where Kike actually left the game. I don't know if you heard about that. The trainer and Cora had to come out, and it wasn't one of those things where they just checked up on him. Kike knew right away he needed to leave. So as the trainers were coming towards him, he just started walking towards the dugout. And I haven't read anything on it yet. Anyone watching this, let us know. But I don't know what happened to him. We think it's an injury. I know Eckersley said maybe he's sick or something. Hopefully it's something like COVID related. But
yeah, that might be.
It was weird. Like no one had any idea what happened. It was just he was standing at third, and then he's just like, I can't do this anymore, and he left. So Franchi Cordero would end up coming in to replace Kike, and JD Martinez ends up driving in Franchi with a single to make it 1-0 Red Sox in the first inning. Then in the second inning, Kevin Plawecki doubles, and he later scores on a Franchi Cordero RBI double to make it 2-0 Red Sox. Then in the third, Jacoby Jones for the Tigers hits a leadoff double, and 2 batters later, Akil Baddoo scores him on a ground out to make it 2-1.
Let's go, Baddoo.
You like that? You like that name?
Yeah, the GOAT.
Yeah, he seems like a solid player. And then in the third inning, JD Martinez reaches on an error by the shortstop. Bogarts gets hit by a pitch. Devers drives in JD with an RBI single to make it 3-1 Red Sox. So at this point, you're thinking. By the way, just I know we said this a little while ago, but the pitchers were Eovaldi versus Turnbull. So at this point, it's 3-1. You're thinking Eovaldi's going to have a good outing.
Right, Steady Eddie's going to cruise. The Red Sox have put up runs. I was definitely I'd kind of been following the game a little more towards the beginning, definitely. So when I saw the score and saw that definitely and was kind of looking through things, I kind of got that sense. Like, all right, I just put my phone away for a bit. And I'm like, you know what? They'll probably just win. It'll probably be a normal win against a team that they should blow out. So I was wrong, but
weren't we all? I mean, this was a crazy game, but. Now there's first and third in the third inning, and Detroit ends up getting a strike him out, throw him out double play as they strike out Hunter Renfroe. And then they throw out our good friend Rafael Devers trying to steal second. So I didn't get this play at all. It was a strike him out, throw him out. Why are we having Devers steal bases?
Base running. I mean,
he doesn't know what he's doing out there.
No.
And it's just another thing kind of struck me by surprise with this, and it made me realize that honestly, since like 2015, and I feel like stealing bases is becoming less and less of a daily occurrence. I don't know if you feel the same way, but I feel like teams don't focus on trying to steal bases as much as they used to, because way back in the day, people would not even be satisfied with stealing second. They'd go for third as well, even though you're already in scoring position. So I just think it's kind of weird how you don't see it happen too much anymore.
Yeah, I honestly didn't think of that until you said it. But yeah, I really do think that's honestly the case. I haven't noticed it as much, for sure. So, and watching baseball for a while now, I remember when I was younger and you were too, in a lot of key moments, Red Sox players stealing bases to really help them in playoff games and really intense games over the years. So yeah, it definitely does seem like something that's kind of, it was a trend, and it's not dying out, but it's just becoming less common. So
yeah, like I remember in the World Series, Mookie, going back to him, stealing a ton of bases against the Dodgers, and then I think when he stole 3 bases in one game, everyone gets like a free taco from Taco Bell or something.
Yeah, I remember that. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, after that play, Marwin gets hit by a pitch, Marwin Gonzalez, and then Plawecki gets his second hit of the day, a broken bat single to bring in Bogarts, which makes it 4-1 Red Sox. And then this is where things get a little crazy. So Detroit ends up getting to Nathan Eovaldi in the 4th inning. This was really the end of his outing. We'll just get into it for a quick second. Eovaldi, 4 1/3, or I'll just say that part. He pitched 4 1/3 innings, but in the 4th, Scope and Candelario for Detroit get back-to-back singles. Wilson Ramos scores Jonathan Scope with an RBI double and make it 4-2. Then Castro drives in both Candelario and Ramos with a 2-run single to left to make it 4-4. So, yeah, that was a long inning for Nate. I think he threw probably like close to upwards of 30 pitches, and I would say that's the most he struggled all year. I think he had one more bad start before this, but this start in particular, he had a really tough time just getting out of the inning here.
Right.
So we end the fourth tied 4-4. And then where did I leave off? And then, sorry. So we don't end the fourth being tied 4-4 because in the bottom of the fourth, Red Sox, the JD Martinez reaches on an error by the third baseman. And then Bogarts in his 1,000th game ends up fouling. God, that's so hard to say. Fouling a ball off of himself. So the trainers end up having to come to him now, too. We already had to deal with Kike getting taken out of the game, but now Bogarts is on the ground, and he's one of our better players. You never want to see him hurt.
Mm-hmm.
And he was in pain after fouling a ball off his leg, but he ends up staying in. Then the very next pitch, he golfs a blooper in the center to score JD to make it 5-4. And this pitch was almost practically in the dirt. And this was a theme of the game, too, where a lot of like weird hits, bloop hits, and Bogarts gets one here. It's just kind of crazy. I feel like he's done that a ton this year. I feel like you've noticed that, too, where Bogarts has hit a ton of pitches that you feel like are going to go in the dirt and just golf them for like extra bases or whatever. So just good to see him doing that. Then after the Red Sox take the lead again, things get ugly in the fifth for Boston. So Scope and Candelario once again get back-to-back singles, and then that's when Eovaldi gets relieved. So Eovaldi only pitches 4 1/3 innings. 7 hits, 6 earned runs, 1 walk, and 5 strikeouts. That's his stat line. Do you take too much stock in this, that he's doing bad against a bad team like Detroit, or do you think Eovaldi's just going to shake it off for his next start and continue being solid like he's been most of the year?
Yeah, I think he'll just continue being solid. I think it was just a rough start, honestly.
So you weren't concerned at all that he did this against the terrible Tigers? Oh, that was an alliteration.
I don't know, a little bit, but not like too concerned.
Let me read this stat to you as well. Nate, in today's game, allowed 5 first pitch hits, the most in his career.
Oh, that is pretty bad. I had a ton of stats written down for him.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, so actually he did. So 6 runs allowed, 7 hits, 4 innings, 5 strike. Yeah, that is pretty bad, actually. Really. I mean, and that you just brought up too. I don't know. It's tough, put stock. I don't know.
I love that phrase now. We got to make merch with that and bury the lead. But look, it is what it is. I mean, I don't know. I guess it's hard for me to predict the Red Sox because I said at the end of the podcast last time that Eovaldi was going to be great, and he did not do great. I mean, it was really the 4th and the 5th innings that did him in, but the fact that he's doing this against the Tigers and the fact that our pitching as a whole kind of struggled against this team is really concerning. But, I mean, we kind of expected it. We knew our pitching wasn't going to be the best heading into the season, so you just kind of got to roll with the punches. But I expected us to not be on our A game against the better teams like the Yankees or the Astros or the Twins. But, our pitching has not been good at times against Baltimore, now Tigers. So I don't know. I don't know what to take from this, but it is definitely weird. So then, in relief of Eovaldi comes in Josh Taylor. Not what you want to see. And immediately after I texted Ricky, I'm like, just anyone but Josh Taylor. And he throws a wild pitch, so Scope's able to score from third, making it 5-5. And then Goodrum for the Orioles. Let me just make sure that's his name. Yep. Nico Goodrum, the shortstop, hits one to Dahlback, but Josh Taylor doesn't get over to first in time to cover the base. So the Red Sox don't end up getting any outs, and Detroit takes the lead for the first time as Candelario scores. So now it's 6-5. And then that's it for Josh Taylor, thankfully. And Felipe Valdez comes in the 6th. He hasn't pitched in a while. I don't know if you knew that too, but it's like he hasn't pitched in Seattle, which is weird. I don't know if something was going on with him, but
yeah, I heard that too. I saw people like, "Oh, he's alive," like joking about it. But I like him, so I like Valdez. So
CGI Romeo and CGI Phillips Valdez.
Yeah,
he comes in the 6th, gives up a single to Grossman, who ends up stealing second. Scope walks, Candelario singles, scoring Grossman, making it 7-5 Detroit. So Detroit gets an insurance run after already taking the lead. And then Franchi Cordero, for the second straight night, actually makes a nice play in the outfield as he made a nice shoestring catch. Well, I thought it was going to drop, and I was like, no, Franchi, no, because if it goes past him, he's going to take forever to get to that ball, and more runs are going to score. But thank God he was able to catch it right before it hit the ground, and that retires the side. So, yeah, and then we head to the bottom of the sixth, and Franchi and Verdugo end up getting back-to-back singles, and Cordero is able to go first to third on the Alex Verdugo hit. So after that, the pitcher for the Tigers who came in was Alexander. I forgot to mention him, and he did well in relief. He went 2 innings, 4 hits. Up until that point, he had no runs, but he also had 2 strikeouts, and he pitched like 35 pitches for them out of the bullpen, which is really good because they needed that after taking Turnbull out of the game early after 3 innings. So Alexander did well, but then after he was relieved and Farmer came in for Detroit, JD Martinez continues his torrid start to the season with a soft RBI single to score Franchi, making it 7-6. And then Bogarts comes in with a chance to, do some damage in this 1,000th game. He had a chance and he hooked one just foul down the left field line, but he ends up getting walked later in the at-bat. And then there's bases loaded and no outs, and Devers squeaks out a 2-run single in between second base and shortstop. And the Red Sox retake the lead in this crazy game. So after being down 6-5 and 7-5, now they're up 8-7 as Devers hits scores both Verdugo and JD Martinez. And then just like that, Farmer is out for the Tigers, and then Funkhauser comes in. And the bases are loaded, but we have a chance. The Red Sox have a chance to add on to their tally even more, add on the lead even more. But Bobby Dahlback comes in, and he ends up flying out to right. So you just want to take a second, I guess, now to talk about Bobby, because we talked about this before we went live, how we're both a little concerned with him. So what are your thoughts on Dahlback so far, 5 weeks into the season?
So I think we've talked a little bit about Dahlback in the last few podcasts and how he's just not there. He's not living up to the expectations of, spring training, his excellent hitting and his solid little portion of last season as well. Like you've said before, people were thinking like lofty enough expectations to say like, oh, he's going to be the AL Rookie of the Year and stuff. And thus far, his stat line is honestly really bad. I mean, he's hitting 183. He has 1 home run and only 15 hits in 29 games. And he's had some, issues at first too. Some defensive issues over that course of time that kind of cost the Red Sox. And he just does not look like the player that we all expected. And I know we've also talked too, we did last podcast a little bit right at the end about Michael Chavis or even guys like Jarren Duran or Jeter Downs or Connor Wong or like somebody from, the Woo Sox that's playing really well to come in and kind of take over. I've heard talks of potentially Jarren Duran getting called up soon. And obviously Michael Chavis could get plopped in at first, and he's had experience with the Red Sox. I'm actually kind of disappointed. I've said this before that he's not on the team right now, but I think they could actually benefit from him a little bit more than somebody like Dahlback. But you mentioned this too before the podcast to me about potentially having Chavis come in to like light a fire under Bobby Dahlback and kind of motivate him like, okay, this guy's might be taking my position. This guy, was, called down and then came back up and he's playing well or whatever, say he does play well. So I think Bobby Dahlback this series, again, just continued that really disappointing trend of just, and I know, again, it's early in the season, and I've still seen people saying that, but I think it's kind of telling at this point. Like, I feel like if he were to, get hot, he would have already started to. And we thought maybe he might a few times here and there, and you've said this before, his best game this season was back in Minnesota when he had those, I think, 2 doubles in that one game. And that, I think it was the doubleheader, first game of the doubleheader back then, like a month ago. I mean, we're talking almost a month has passed since then. So I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen with Bobby Dahlback, but to say the least, it's definitely been a little disappointing. So,
and I mean, his defense has been solid, but it's not like amazing. So there's nothing really I can point to in Dahlback's game so far where it wants me to keep him on this roster for the long term because I'm going to be honest, I think he's in trouble. Like we've said, and you just summarized, I think it wouldn't be a bad idea to call up Chavis just to light a fire under Bobby or see if Bobby doesn't respond to the call, then just send him down or bench him so Chavis can play in his place because Chavis has experience playing first base, second base, third base, the outfield positions. So he's very versatile, and I don't see why he's not on the team right now. I mean, I get they want to give him reps, and maybe they didn't have room for him on the roster right now, so they're just giving him reps in Worcester where he's expected to play really well because, I mean, he's an MLB talent going against AAA people, so he should go off. But I would say if Bobby Dahlback doesn't get his average above like 210 by the end of May, I think we either send him down or call Chavis up.
I think so. I like that assessment of end of May. That's definitely telling because he could get it up because it's kind of hovering somewhat around a 200. It's at 183, so that's a possible goal. I definitely think that's a good timeline for the Dahlback experience.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird because we're doing well without him really being a factor besides that Minnesota series. And obviously he had a homer against the Mets, which helped us win one of those games in the 2-game set. But I don't know what's happening. And we all thought he could be rookie of the year. I know this guy, I think his name's Bill James, who does like projections. He projected Dahlback to hit 35 homers this year. So it's just really confusing to me how he's performed so poor so far, but we'll see. It's just something to watch the rest of the month and for the rest of the season, really. So, getting back to the game, in relief now after who was it that pitched before Valdez?
Right.
It's Darwin Hernandez comes in the 7th inning, and Castro ends up singling for the Astros, or not the Astros, sorry, the Tigers, and Devers has a chance with one out to get a double play, inning double play, but in typical Devers fashion, he screws this up and he throws the ball in the right field. I mean, this is another thing too, where we keep trying to, encourage, like we keep thinking we're getting encouraged by Devers playing better defense, but every time he takes a step forward, I feel like he takes a step back. Do you agree with that assessment?
Yeah, totally.
Because I'm not saying like we all know what he can do at the plate. He was an MVP. He was in the running for MVP in 2019. Obviously had a sucky 2020 until he finally figured it out at the end of last year. But this year he's been going off. Can't say enough about him at the plate. But on the field, there's so much left to be desired. I mean, I don't get how you don't know how to play third base or how you haven't gotten any better at playing third base in the 5 years he's been here. And I know we keep saying this in every podcast, but there's no reason he can't be good at third base because it's not like he's slow or anything. It's not like he doesn't have a weak arm. He's like the perfect prototype for the hot corner, but he still struggles with it. I don't get it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Do you have any other thoughts on that?
Not really. I mean, I agree. Just Devers is just, inconsistent on the defensive end. So
I know the talk early in the season was, and we talked about this in a prior podcast too, is swapping Dahlback for third and Devers for first. But I don't think Devers has the stretch needed to play first. If you need to beat out a ground ball, you need the first baseman able to have a good stretch to catch the ball earlier. So I don't think that'll happen. I don't think that's the right move, but something just needs to be done with Devers. I don't understand like how he's still so bad at playing the field because this was a costly mistake as the inning double play ends up getting thrown into right field, and there's runners on second and third, and then Victor Reyes of the Tigers gets an RBI ground out to tie the game at 8-8. So the inning should have been over at this point, but Devers' error comes back to haunt the Red Sox. Then in the 8th inning, Matt Andrees, one of our good friends again, comes in and he gives up a walk to Grossman, but then he balks, and I haven't seen a balk happen in a while by a pitcher. So when I saw that, it caught me off guard.
Yeah, same. That was really surprising.
And it was a balk too because you can't twitch while you're on the mound. That's one of the rules of being a pitcher. Like he twitched or something, so the umpire did a good job catching it, and he made the right call there. Can't believe in 2021 I'm praising the umpires, but nonetheless, here we are. And yeah, so after that mistake by Andres, Ramos gets an RBI single to score Grossman to make it 9-8 Tigers, and then the bottom of the eighth inning happens for the Red Sox, and we're down 9-8. It's been a crazy game. We've blown 4 leads up until this point. The Tigers have come back countless times. So now it's go time. I mean, you don't want to have to go in the full game. You don't want to have to leave it all a chance in the ninth inning to, fight your way back into the game. And in the bottom of the eighth, Devers reaches on an error once again. This is one of 6 errors committed by the Tigers today. The second baseman should have made the play, but he bobbled it, and Devers reaches nonetheless. And then Vasquez is able to drive him in later in the inning with a single down the left field line to make it 9-9. Just talking about Vasquez, he actually had a pretty solid series here. We talked about in prior podcasts, so he kind of cooled off lately, but I thought he had a solid series, and I think this is encouraging to see. He hit the ball well.
Yeah, I had that as a point of note too on Vasquez. That is good to see. Yeah, he did a good job behind the plate, and yeah, he just did what he needed to do. So that definitely was encouraging to see. It's good to see somebody like Vasquez step up when somebody else kind of struggles a bit. Somebody like, I don't know, like a Marwin Gonzalez or whatever, who had kind of a meh series. So.
Yeah, and then it's tied 9-9 now, and then Franchy Cordero has a chance to give us the lead after there's runners in scoring position, and he goes up to bat, and this play was pretty much like straight out of the Bad News Bears movie. So he hits a short grounder. It's in between the pitcher's mound and the home plate, and the pitcher and the third baseman end up getting in each other's way. So even if he was able to make this throw to third baseman, let me see what his name was. Candelario. Yeah, so it was Candelario. Even if he's able to make this throw, the pitcher, I don't know what he was doing, but he gets in the way of Candelario. So Candelario would have had a hard time making this throw anyways, but he can't even corral the ball. So Franchy reaches on an error, and Vasquez scores, or Arroyo scores, actually, excuse me, to make it 10-9 Boston. So in the eighth, the Red Sox end up taking the lead, and then Alex Verdugo drives in both Vasquez and Cordero with a single later in this inning to make it 12-9 Red Sox, as Cordero continues to do really well both this season and in the series. So a big eighth inning for the Red Sox. 4-run eighth inning just adds on to the craziness of this game. We go from being down once again to just clawing back and getting up 12-9. So nothing to complain about with that. And then in the top of the ninth, Matt Barnes was unavailable. So in order to close it out, we need to turn to our good friend Adam Ottavino. So how did Adam Ottavino do today?
He did what he needed to do. Adam Ottavino actually continued that inconsistency streak, but obviously in this case it was a positive. Yeah, I was surprised he actually closed things out and did what he needed to do. I think, was this his only appearance in this series, or did he?
I want to say it was.
Yeah.
He might have been game one. Let me see. I feel like he played in another game. I'll look at that for a quick second. But look, I mean, just Ottavino, the most interesting, the biggest enigma on the Sox this season, ends up closing it out. I was having flashbacks to Texas because he gave up a leadoff walk. So I'm like, oh God, here we go again. But yeah, he was able to close it out. He gets the save, and it's only fitting that the most confusing player on the Red Sox closes out the most confusing game of the season. So yeah, Red Sox win this game. They take 2 of 3, and somehow, some way, we win 2 of the craziest games of the season against one of the worst teams in the league. So, we won a series for the first time in a while because we've been doing a lot of splits lately. But, I'll take 2 of 3, even though we should have swept them.
Right. Yeah, same. Actually, going back to Ottavino, he actually pitched an inning in all 3 games. He only gave up 1 hit, and he had 2 strikeouts on the second game, 2 in the first, and then he had the save, obviously, today. So Ottavino actually overall had 3 really solid innings pitched. So, I mean, that's a plus, actually, that he was able to. I mean, it was against the Tigers, so it's not like he was facing, elite batters or anything, but it was to see that 3-game stretch of him pitching that well. That was definitely a plus. So, Ottavino actually impressed. This is rare to say because we've been very critical of him, but he impressed. So
A roller coaster ride, and he had a good series. And I'm like, who are they going to throw in the ninth? Because Barnes isn't available because he pitched the last 2 games before today's game, and they throw in Ottavino. I'm like, I don't know if this. I don't know if this is maybe he's been promoted to closer and Matt Barnes has been demoted to setup guy after this game. But yeah, it's just what a crazy game today. And I mean, I'll just touch on the box score for a quick second. The Red Sox had 12 hits. The Tigers had 9. Or sorry, it was 12-9 to score. Red Sox had 16 hits. Tigers had 14 hits. That's 30 total hits. That's insane. 6 total errors. 4 of them went to the Tigers. And I believe almost 400 pitches were thrown in this game. And this game didn't even go into extra innings, which is ridiculous. So,
yeah,
probably
honestly.
Right. I mean, probably the craziest, ugliest game I've seen the Sox play in recent memory, but I'm not going to complain because we ended up winning and we took 2 out of 3. I mean, that's all we need to do. We just need to take these series. So that's going to do it for the series. But who would you say your Red Sox best players of this 3-game set?
So for offense, I had Xander Bogaerts, 1,000 games, played. That's excellent. He continued his solid offense. And I'm also really glad, touch upon what we talked about earlier when he got hit. I'm really glad that wasn't more serious. And I gave the other player to Hunter Renfroe just because I thought, with the 100th career home run, that whole incident, and also he had, I believe, a 3-hit game in the first game of this series, and I think he was close to getting a cycle. So that was pretty impressive to me, and I'm glad he's been hitting better because I've been, kind of worried about his batting as of late. So I'm glad he's kind of warming up a bit. And then for pitching, I had Nick Pivetta because I think he's, again, like we talked about, continued to impress. And I actually have Ottavino as the closer because reliever, closer too.
Let's not get ahead of ourselves.
Yeah, he had a really nice stretch of 3 innings pitched over the last 3 games and did well. Pitched like you'd expect him to. So I actually was the most encouraged by him I've been all season. So yeah, I don't know who you have, but I thought I'd throw Ottavino in there just to put things in a loop.
Yeah, just don't give Alex any ideas of putting Ottavino at closer. That's for sure. But
sorry, Alex Cora, I know you watch this podcast, so sorry about that.
Yes, he always tunes in, which, by the way, you should tune in too, and you should subscribe, and you should hit that like button. Free promotion. But I had JD Martinez as my number 1 player of the series. He had a homer, got tied in game 2, and he had at least 1 RBI in every game, multiple hits in a couple of the games, so at least a couple of the games. So that was pretty solid. Honorable mentions to Alex Verdugo and Bogaerts for reasons you said. Bogaerts playing his 1,000th game, got at least hit the ball well, got some RBIs, played some good defense. Verdugo, even though he sat out game 2 of this series with back soreness, he just continues to really hit the ball well. He had a homer in game 1. Proven to be someone to root for. I mean, we all, again, gave him a hard time last year being part of the Mookie trade, high expectations, but he's playing solid. And then for my pitcher, I had Matt Barnes because he pitched an inning in game 2, and then he had a 5-out save in game 1. So just continues to be a dominant reliever as he continues to have his best year of his career by far. How about for the Tigers?
For the Tigers, I had Robbie Grossman. Pretty solid offense. I think he had 3 hits in the first game as well. He also had, as you mentioned, the home run robbing catch that kind of really kept the Tigers in that game that they actually ended up winning. They did win. That was game 2.
Yeah, game 2. Yep.
And then I had Jonathan Shoop or Scoop. I don't know how to say it.
Scoop, Shoop.
Yeah, Scope. Yeah, either way. I had him on there. And then for pitching, I obviously had Casey Mize because we both talked about, he really did an excellent job containing the Red Sox, only giving up 1 run. So he had a really solid outing. So, yeah. And also for relief, I had Alexander because he had a really solid relief appearance.
Yeah, I had Candelario because he obviously had the big homer last night in Game 2 that broke the Red Sox hearts and ended up propelling the Tigers to that extra inning victory. He had a hit in at least all 3 of the games, multiple RBIs, and a few of the games, I think, a couple of the games at least. So very impressive. And then I had Jacoby Jones as well coming up with some timely hits, and he played good defense and left for the most part. I actually think he might have had an error today, but he put together a good series at the plate, at least for Detroit. And then for the pitcher, I had Mize. Mize did really well last night, shut them down, just like you said, and put together a good start, stymieing a great powerhouse of a Sox offense. So that's going to do it for the Tigers series, but we're going to take a minute to preview the Red Sox next series against the Orioles. This is the 3rd time so far this year that we're facing Baltimore. Once again, it's at Camden Yards, and it's a 4-game set. First pitching matchup is Erod versus Matt Harvey. Then we have Garrett Richards versus to be determined. I guess the Orioles don't know who they're going to throw out there. Game 3 is Nick Pivetta versus Dean Kramer. Then Game 4 is Martin Perez versus Jorge Lopez. So how do you think this series is going to go? All the Orioles pitchers that they're throwing out there have at least a 4.0 ERA. So how do you think we're going to fare against them? Keep in mind our starters are Erod, Garrett Richards, Pivetta, and Perez.
The good thing is, to start with the pitching, is they don't have to face John Means.
Right.
So that's a pretty big benefit because the Red Sox have kind of got unlucky with some series where they've had, ace pitchers where they've had to face the ace, like they did with DeGrom and Giolito. And it's just been kind of like a reoccurring trend, which is pretty expected in mostly 4-game sets. So somehow they lucked out with not facing the Orioles' best pitcher, one of the best pitchers in the AL, in my opinion. Love John Means. But I think the Red Sox should take 3 of 4 because they have a tendency to play pretty well at their offense tends to have a really good tendency to just rip hit and play well at Camden Yards. And I think the Red Sox kind of want to push aside the rough last couple series, although this series was a win in the end. I think they want to go out there and play their hardest. And if anything, at the game they lose, I personally see as the game Perez pitches, just because I think Pivetta's been consistent. I think Erod will put on a good performance against the Orioles. And Garrett Richards, the last few starts, hasn't been all that bad. So we might see like an upward trend for him, but I think because Perez I think he's lost every start.
Yeah, he's 0-2.
Yeah. So I think if they lose the game, it's either going to be Richards or Perez, but I personally think they're going to lose the Perez game. So I don't know what you think, but that's what I've got on that series. So
I'll say 3 of 4 too. I'm really tempted to say sweep, but I don't want to jinx the team like I did this last time. And B, it's really hard in the MLB to sweep someone in a 4-game set. So I'll just say they take 3 of 4, but I'll say they lose the Garrett Richards game because I think they're going to have his number once again, like they did on Easter Sunday. Granted, Garrett's pitching better as of late, but I just feel like Baltimore's going to get to him again, unfortunately. So even though we should sweep them, I'll say 3 of 4. Watch them sweep them now that I said 3 of 4 instead of a sweep. So hopefully that's some good karma. But yeah, I don't see any reason why we shouldn't win this series at least. I mean, it is Baltimore, and granted, they are doing better than most people thought they were. We crushed them the last time we took a trip to Camden, so I don't see why it can't be any different starting tomorrow. But yeah, that's going to do it. One last thing I actually just read during this podcast is apparently the Sox just brought back Brandon Workman on the minor league deal. I thought that was interesting.
Wow, we were just talking about Workman earlier. Ooh. More pressure for our boy Ottavino. Interesting.
Because people forget Workman did really well as our closer back in 2019 when we had no other options because we let Kimbrel walk.
Yeah.
Okay, let's throw in Workman. He was shut down at the end of that season. So I don't know if that means much because, granted, it is John Means. I don't know if that means much, but it is a minor league deal, so maybe he won't even crack the Fenway Diamond at all this season. But it's something interesting to think about.
Yeah.
So that's going to do it for this recap. Lot went down in this Tigers series, but thankfully we took 2 of 3. Can't wait to move past them because tip our cats to Detroit. They played us well. Let me just remind everyone to hit that like button or absorb that like button, absorb that subscribe button. There will be more Red Sox recaps coming. Celtics recaps will be coming, and Bruins recaps will be coming once I'm done with school. I just have a few more finals to wrap up, but more content will be getting put out for you guys. Personal interviews as well, Patriots recaps in the future, reality TV recaps in the future. It's all going to be #fun, so you should definitely tune in. Thanks everyone for watching. If you watched this video, let us know in the comment section below what you liked. This part always makes you laugh. What you liked, what you didn't like, what you don't like about us, what you like about us, what you think about the Red Sox. Yeah, that's going to do it. Alrighty, everyone. Thank you so much for watching. Have a good night, and we will be talking to you in a few days when we talk about the Red Sox versus the Orioles. Take it easy.